So imagine this, Whovians, right? The 50th anniversary is happening. Matt Smith is about to celebrate the 50th anniversary with David Tennant in 2013, celebrating with the return of David Tennant, Joanna Page coming into Doctor Who, who's obviously a great friend of David Tennant, who appeared in the Nativity 2 the year before, came to Doctor Who to join Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman, and many other stars who appeared. Even Tom Baker made a surprise appearance in that 50th anniversary. Before that episode went out, Matt Smith made the decision to leave Doctor Who during that anniversary year. Now, of course, the big question was going to be who was going to replace Matt Smith. Well, they did a whole Doctor Who live to answer that question, who happened to be none other than Peter Capaldi, who would finally realise his dream, being the 12th Doctor. He was originally meant to be the 11th Doctor until Matt Smith came along. So now that he became the 12th Doctor, he was following on from Matt Smith. It definitely was going to be, without further ado, guys, we are now going to enter the year of 2014, on the very first year of Peter Capaldi's run as the 12th Doctor, where he was now going to make the Doctor a bit more, I guess, darker in a sense. Whether he achieves that in Series 8, we're going to find out with some of the episodes that I enjoyed of this particular series this series that basically was changing the way we saw the Doctor going into, from the 50th anniversary, and also the fact that, he's just regenerated from Matt Smith. So, of course, a lot of things were going to change with the way the Doctor was going to behave. The fact that, Peter Capaldi wasn't going to be all lovey-dovey like Matt Smith. We knew that going into that. A lot of other things were probably going to change. So without further ado, let's have a look and see Peter Capaldi got up to as the 12th Doctor in his first full series as the 12th Doctor. So we kick off my favourite episodes of this series. Obviously, we have to start with Deep Breath, which also, by the way, was the first time that Doctor Who opened the series with a cinema release. Yes, Peter Capaldi's first episode was so special, they had to do a big cinema screening for it on the 23rd of August, 2014. And it was on that day, they aired it in cinemas. They introduced us to the all-new title sequence, which, by the way, was inspired by a fan-made Doctor Who title sequence, which I'm so glad they made an official version of that, because that title sequence blows me away every time I see it. It's really, really lovely. Of course, Peter Capaldi, being introduced to Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor, you could definitely tell there's definitely a very different shift from what we saw from the 11th Doctor with Matt Smith. The fact that obviously he was going to be silly at first because he was trying to figure out who he is, who everyone else is. The fact that he confused Jenna Coleman, with Strax, which was kind of funny actually, that he thought she was a potato head. Nevertheless, it was really great to see Peter Capaldi try to portray like a character who was lost and had no idea of who he was. And it took most of the story for him to figure out. And then he obviously interacts with the Pamarosta Rose gang. The fact that he obviously has interacted with them for some time. They decided to come in and interact with the fact that they interacted with the Clockwork droids, because yes, the Clockwork droids made a return in this story, and also in a more scary way, because what happened with the Clockwork droids is that essentially they were getting parts of animal skin to turn themselves into normal human beings, which is something that the Clockwork droids had never done before. The fact that they were trying to take parts of essentially animal skin, converting them into human skin so they become disguised as human beings. And the fact that the main Clockwork man was essentially part human, part clockwork, was incredible to see that the Clockwork droids were able to make themselves basically part of their skin human within quite a few months. Really shows the achievement of how they were able to do that. But obviously the leader didn't get away with it, because of course Peter Capaldi basically his 12th Doctor basically pushed him to one of the top of the towers, to the point that he basically died because he kept saying he wanted to go to the Promised Land. The 12th Doctor basically led him to the Promised Land, where we would be introduced to this woman who shows up out of nowhere. We're not too sure who she is. A lot of us were a bit puzzled by who this woman in the black coat was. played by Michelle Gomez, and she definitely has a big purpose, as you'll see later in the as my favorite episodes grow in series 8. She has a much more bigger purpose than what she's leading on, and also the fact that obviously Clara was trying to get used to the new Doctor, the fact that the 12th Doctor was completely different. He was very different, and she didn't know who he was anymore. Matt Smith's Doctor there was this really cool Easter egg where Matt Smith's Doctor essentially phoned up Clara following before his regeneration to basically tell him, "Look, you've got to look after me. Like I've just changed. I don't know what I'm doing. You really need to look after the new me, essentially, and kind of tell him, look, he needs your help. He's more scared than ever before because he doesn't know what he's going to do. He doesn't know what he's capable of. So the fact that he's essentially encouraging Clara to essentially go up to him and make sure that you look after this man kind of shows the fact that the fact that this doctor did everything he could to make sure that Clara Oswald stay with the doctor as long as possible, and I'm glad that she did because he essentially helped the 12th Doctor sort of find himself a bit more during the series, even though he was a bit dark at times. She knew that the Doctor was going to be a very different person by the way he was interacting and stuff. But anyway, well, another story I actually kind of enjoyed, The Robot of Sherwood. I love the whole Robin Hood storyline. The fact that, well, even though his laughing kind of got on the Doctor's nerves, and then the fact that you had this banter between the Doctor and Robin Hood was kind of really funny, and the fact that the Doctor used the spoon as a sword, basically taking inspiration from the third Doctor, essentially challenging the Robin Hood was kind of funny to see that, and I enjoyed the fact that Robin Hood was just kind of having laughs with Peter Capaldi, and they got on so well. Seeing those two, really enjoyed that story, and obviously the fact that you had these robots in Sherwood that were essentially causing explosions in Nottingham Forest, and then obviously Robin Hood basically had to take care of him, and also the Doctor had to take care of them as well. Another story that I thought was I guess we could say one of the scary stories was the whole Listen story, which I know some people didn't really like Listen, but I actually didn't mind Listen. It was a kind of a story that centered around, I guess, some more horror to the story. You definitely the horror in this story, the fact that you had this boy who Clara was looking after for hard part of the story, but it turns out that boy was pretty much Daddy Pink as a boy, has learned throughout the story that essentially boy was Daddy Pink. Basically got afraid of stuff essentially, and he was very scared of stuff. Clara was making sure that he was okay, and then eventually when they go back, of course you have this in the real world. Daddy Pink is older, and of course now Clara has this relationship with Daddy Pink, and this is now building throughout the course of Series 8, this whole relationship between Daddy Pink and Clara. I also enjoyed the Mommy and the Oriental Express. I love that story, especially I forgot the character that's played by that comedian. Kept like knowing the Doctor because he was I guess he was the owner of the train, and he knew the Doctor very, very well. But we haven't seen him since Murray and the Oriental Express, and even Russell T Davies wants to explore the mystery of that character. But I love the whole concept of the fact that the Mommy only kills you when it hits 0. Like he has this time limit, and you've got to see the time limit on the screen. Like the seconds getting closer, and as soon as it got to 0, that character died. Really, really clever. The fact that they had this whole chemistry where you would essentially have to deal with a Mommy within 60. You essentially have to have about 60 seconds to get away from the Mommy, otherwise the Mommy kills you. And I love that. That was really, really cool that they did that, and I really liked the atmosphere that they did with the whole Mommy and the Oriental Express. Really well done. Unfortunately, the train crashed, but at least the Doctor says like, oh, we'll hopefully see him again. Hopefully we will, because that character definitely needs to return, and we'll hopefully learn more about his character at some point when Doctor Who does return, that is. Another story I thought was really good, The Caretaker. The fact that we got to see the Doctor become the caretaker in Coal Hill School, dealing with that sort of battle droid robot, and then the fact that Danny Pink knew that Clara was traveling with the Doctor in the TARDIS, and the fact that there was this, I guess, this chemistry, this sort of, and then the fact that Clara kept pretending it was a magic trick, which is kind of funny. The fact she was treating it like it was a magic act, and Danny was like, I'm not stupid, Clara. Crazy. That was just really funny that she thought that she could get away. It was a nice try, Clara. Nice try. But it's it was a nice it was a really cool story to see the Doctor working in co-host. It's something we don't see very often. But it was nice to see that the Doctor decided to be the caretaker and try to take care of this drone Coal Hill School just so he could stop the droid from put an end to the droid so that the droid can go away and then the school can be safe. Essentially, is what he was trying to do. Another story I also kind of enjoy. I also find Flatline kind of a good story. The fact Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor with his speech like "This Earth is protected. I am the Doctor." That whole speech he did, that was really well. Capaldi did that, but also it was very freaky in the filming. Well, especially during the filming where they had these pictures of people looking backwards and essentially these people that looked like they were corrupted and were being pulled into the wall, and essentially they were looking backwards because they were trapped or pixelated in the wall because there was this enemy that was pulling people into the carpet, which was really freaky, really freaky stuff. And then, of course, the Doctor got trapped in the TARDIS because the TARDIS kept shrinking because of this energy that these, whoever this enemy was or the boneless people, I guess we could call them, essentially were trying to stop the TARDIS from being able to get bigger. So the Doctor had to use their energy to get bigger so he could finally trap them and deal with them. And then, of course, we also helped the Doctor and Clara. It was really nice. We saw that young boy again working with Clara. I forgot his name, but he was a really cool dude to see him. The fact that she tried to take the Doctor's title when being, and then the Doctor was like, "Don't you?" We have to talk about Darkwater. Obviously, Michelle Gomez being revealed as the Mistress, aka the female Master. That was perfect. That was honestly perfect. The fact that the Doctor didn't know who she was, and then it turned out that it was the female version of the Master, and the Doctor was shocked to find out the Master became a female, right? And then, of course, on top of that, we have Cybermen all over London, so we had to deal with the Cybermen invasion. Then on top of that, we also have Kate Stewart and Unit basically working together to stop. Well, basically, Kate Stewart didn't know whether to trust the Doctor or not, so the Doctor tried to, tried to obviously stop the Master and stuff, but the Master found a way basically the Master essentially disappeared Osgood, but actually what we find out in series 9 that essentially the Osgood that she killed was essentially the Zygon version of Osgood, essentially. That's what we found out. But anyway, it was really great to see the Master and the Doctor colliding, and the fact that the Doctor got his TARDIS back because the TARDIS was in the ship. Missy basically destroyed the ship so that the Doctor could save Kate Stewart. Well, Kate Stewart nearly fell, but luckily the Brigadier, who came back as a Cyberman, basically saved her daughter, essentially. Yeah, because essentially they had the dead becoming Cybermen because they became basically they had this whole concept of the Cybermen were heaven, essentially, and it was that was and then we find out essentially we find out that that whole heaven place that we talked about was essentially just a sphere. So essentially people who died to a sphere entire time. Danny Pink, because Danny Pink died at the start of Darkwater, which started this whole anger between Clara trying to anger the Doctor to force him to take him to Danny Pink, and obviously the Doctor just didn't know what knew that Clara was getting upset about it, so he tried to do everything he could to make sure he could get to Danny Pink and find out what the hell was going on. But yeah, that whole two-parter with Darkwater and Death in Heaven, I felt was actually kind of a dark and really actually pretty good finale for Series 8. I think it really went really well, the whole finale. And also Danny Pink was essentially became a soldier for the Cybermen. Obviously, because he died, it means he had to go back to the heavens as Cybermen. and Clara would have to move on with her life. But then, of course, we would have a Cyberman. A Cyberman existed. I guess you could say the Brigadier Cyberman attacks Missy, and we all thought Missy died, but actually she just teleported out of there. We assume she teleported, and then she essentially brought Kate Stewart. It brought Kate Stewart, who was about to fall from her death, and basically saved for the Doctor, which was great. But yeah, and then also the fact that we nearly had this sort of parting ways between Clara and the Doctor towards the end of the series, but then that really cool scene at the end of Death in Heaven where we would see Santa come out to speak to the Doctor, asking him, "What do you want for Christmas?" And that, oh yeah, you and Clara, it can't end like that. You're not happy, she's not happy. Let's sort this out. Attitude, and I love it. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on Series 8. Let me know in the comment section below what your favorite episodes of Series 8 were. And then let me know in the comment section, and be sure to tune in as we're going to look back at Series 9, Peter Capaldi's second year as the 12th Doctor. Obviously, bigger stories, a lot more two-parters in here, and of course, a bigger story in the works for the 12th Doctor as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the Series 9 look back as part of our New Who 20th anniversary celebration.